The colony night was cold and wet. Rain hammered on the metal roofs of the settlement, running down the narrow streets like silver streams. Most families stayed inside their warm homes, keeping the lights low to save power. But in one small house on the edge of the colony, a man sat alone, watching the storm through a cracked window. His name was Daniel Carter. Once he had been a soldier, then a farmer, and later a husband. Now he was only a widower, left with 2 little daughters and a heart full of grief. His wife had died in the sickness that swept the outer colonies. Since then, Daniel tried to keep going, but every day felt heavier than the last. Inside, his daughters were sleeping in their small room. The older one, Mira, curled up with her blanket pulled to her chin. The younger one, Leah, clutched a broken toy rabbit. Daniel had promised he would fix it, but the truth was he barely had the strength to get out of bed most mornings. He had lost so much. The laughter of his children was fading, replaced by quiet tears and silence. Daniel whispered to himself, "They need more than me. They need a mother." His voice cracked, swallowed by the roar of the storm. He closed his eyes for a moment. Then he heard something outside. A sound not made by rain or wind, a weak cough. A voice low and strange. Daniel stood quickly, grabbing the lamp. He opened the door and stepped into the storm. The wind slapped his face, cold and sharp. His boots sank into the mud. The light of his lamp cut through the darkness. And there, near the edge of the road, someone was lying on the ground. It was not a human. The figure was thin, wrapped in torn gray cloth. Skin pale with a faint glow, eyes shut tight as if in pain. Long fingers clawed at the earth, struggling to move. Daniel's chest tightened. He had seen beings like this before. An alien woman. Everyone in the colony knew about her. She was called Solara, the outcast. No one knew why she'd been cast away by her own people, but the humans feared her. Children whispered her name like a ghost story. Adults spat on the ground when she passed. She had no home, no food, and no friends. She slept in abandoned sheds or under the open sky. Daniel stared at her for a long second. His mind screamed, "Leave her. She is not your problem." But another voice inside him, the same voice that still cried for his wife, whispered, "She is alone, like you." Solara opened her eyes weakly. They glowed faint blue in the dark, filled with pain and exhaustion. Her lips parted. She tried to speak, but her voice broke. Daniel knelt down. The rain poured harder, soaking them both. "You'll die out here," he muttered. Solara looked at him, confused, as if she could not believe a human was speaking to her. Her kind had only ever received hatred from his people. Daniel's heart pounded. His daughters needed someone. He needed someone. This woman was broken, rejected, lost, just like him. He felt the words rising in his chest before he could stop them. "I need a mother for my daughters," Daniel said, his voice low, rough, but steady. "And you need shelter." The storm roared around them, thunder crashing like the voice of the galaxy itself. Solara's glowing eyes widened. She stared at him as if he were mad. A human man offering a place in his home, a family, a bond that was forbidden by the law of the stars. Daniel knew what this meant. The Galactic Tribunal forbade humans and aliens from forming unions with outcasts. The punishment was harsh, sometimes exile, sometimes worse. But in that moment he did not care. His daughters were growing up without love. He was drowning in grief. And before him was someone who needed a chance as much as he did. "Come with me," Daniel said firmly, his hand reaching out through the rain. For a long moment, Solara did not move. Her thin fingers trembled. Behind them, the colony lights flickered. In the distance, a patrol drone hummed, scanning the storm for movement. If it saw them together, there would be questions, maybe even charges. Finally, Solara reached out. Her hand, cold and fragile, touched his. Daniel pulled her up, holding her weight as she stumbled. For the first time in many months, his heart beat faster, not with despair, but with something close to hope. Inside the small house, the girls stirred as the door opened. Mira peeked from her blanket, her eyes wide at the sight of the alien woman standing beside her father. Leah's toy rabbit slipped from her hands. "Papa, who is she?" Mira whispered. Daniel looked at his daughters, then at Solara, who stood silently, dripping from the storm. "She," Daniel said slowly, "is someone who might save us all." And as lightning flashed across the night sky, the story of a human widower and an alien outcast truly began. The storm had passed, But the silence inside Daniel's home felt heavier than thunder. Solara stood just beyond the doorway, dripping water onto the floor. Her glowing blue eyes shifted nervously between Daniel and his daughters. The small room smelled of damp wood and old smoke, and the only light came from the lamp on the table. Daniel's older daughter, Mira, gripped the blanket around her shoulders like a shield. Her younger sister, Leah, peered from behind her, clutching her broken toy rabbit with wide, frightened eyes. Neither child had ever been this close to an alien before. Solara lowered her gaze. She knew what she saw in their faces: fear, suspicion, and confusion. It was the same look she had seen from every human since the day she was cast out. Daniel cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "This is Solara," he said, his voice rough but calm. "She'll be staying with us now." The words felt strange even to him. He had not planned them. He had not thought through the danger. But he had spoken, and there was no turning back. Mira frowned. "Papa, why?" Daniel crouched beside his daughters. His tired eyes softened. "Because sometimes people need help. And sometimes we need them too." He glanced at Solara, who stood like a shadow against the wall. "She has no one, and we have space in our hearts if we choose." Leah tilted her head, still holding her rabbit. She whispered almost too softly to hear, "Is she a monster?" The word cut Solara like a blade. Her chest tightened and shame flooded her face. She turned toward the door, ready to leave, but Daniel stepped forward quickly. "No," he said firmly, his voice carrying weight. "She is not a monster. She is just different. Like we are different from the stars." Solara froze, her back still to them. The simple words struck her deeper than she expected. A human had defended her. That had never happened before. Daniel gestured toward a chair. "Sit," he said gently. "You must be hungry." Solara hesitated, then moved slowly to the table. She sat stiffly, her hands folded in her lap. Daniel placed a plate of bread and stew before her. The smell filled the room, but Solara only stared at it. Mira leaned closer to her sister and whispered, "She doesn't eat like us." Solara's lips curved faintly. Her voice was quiet but clear. "You are correct, child. My body cannot take your food. It would harm me." Daniel blinked. "Then what do you eat?" Solara raised her head. Her glowing eyes caught the lamplight, mysterious and calm. "I draw strength from light and minerals. Stones, soil, and sometimes the stars," the girls gasped. Mira's fear wavered, replaced with curiosity. "You eat dirt?" Solara allowed herself a small smile. "Not dirt. The life within it." Leah giggled softly, and for the first time in many months the sound made Daniel's heart lighten. Still, unease lingered in the air. The girls kept their distance, whispering questions Daniel could not answer. Solara remained silent most of the night, her posture tense as if one wrong movement might shatter this fragile peace. When the girls finally went to bed, Daniel sat across from Solara. He studied her, the strange markings on her arms that glowed faintly in the dark, the sadness etched into her face. "You don't have to stay if you don't want to," he said quietly. "I won't force you." Solara's head lifted slowly. "Leave and I die. Stay, and I risk bringing death upon you." Her voice carried the weight of her past. "Do you understand what you are doing, human?" Daniel leaned back, weary but certain. "I understand this. My daughters need a mother, and I think you need a family." For a moment, silence stretched between them. The storm outside had faded to gentle rain. Solara's eyes softened. No one had ever spoken to her like this, not even among her own people. Finally, she whispered, "Then I will try." Daniel nodded, though doubt gnawed at him. He knew the colony would not understand. Already some neighbors might have seen her enter his home. Whispers would spread, sharp as knives, but as he glanced toward the door of his daughter's room, he also knew this was a path he could not walk back from. The next morning, the trial of living together began. Solara tried to help. She folded blankets with careful hands, though she did not understand the human way of arranging them. She mended Leah's broken toy rabbit with strange thread that shimmered like silver. When she touched the cloth, it hummed faintly and the toy seemed stronger than before. Leah's eyes sparkled with joy and she hugged Solara's leg without thinking. But there were also mistakes. When Solara stepped into the kitchen, she almost destroyed the stove, not knowing how human fire worked. When she walked through the village with Daniel and the girls, people stopped to stare, their eyes cold with judgment. Children pointed. Adults turned away. One man spat on the ground as they passed. "Human fool," he muttered. "Living with a cast-off. He'll bring ruin to us all." Daniel's fist clenched, but he kept walking. Solara lowered her gaze, shame burning her cheeks. The girls held tightly to her hands, their fear replaced by a strange determination. That night, Daniel looked out the window and saw a patrol drone hover longer than usual near his home. Its red light scanned the walls, then vanished into the sky. His stomach turned cold. He whispered to himself, "How long before the tribunal notices?" Behind him, Solara sat quietly with the girls, telling them a story of stars that sang to each other across the void. The children's eyes grew heavy with wonder, their fears forgotten for now. Daniel watched them and felt something stir inside his chest. Hope, but also fear, because he knew the peace in his home would not last. The colony woke early, as always. The smell of burning fuel and damp soil filled the air. Workers headed toward the fields and factories while drones floated overhead, scanning every street. Inside Daniel's home, things seemed almost normal. Mira and Leah were laughing softly as Solara braided their hair in strange patterns she remembered from her world. Her long, glowing fingers moved carefully, weaving shapes that looked like small stars. The girls giggled at their reflections in the cracked mirror. For a moment, Daniel felt something he had not felt in years: peace. But peace never lasted long in a place where eyes watched every move. When Daniel stepped out to fetch supplies, the whispers began. "There he goes," one woman muttered. "With her in his house," another man added bitterly. "He's lost his mind." His poor girls. Daniel kept walking, his jaw tight. He had faced soldiers, storms, and death. But the quiet judgment of his own neighbors cut deeper than any blade. At the trading post, an old friend, Jonas, pulled him aside. Jonas had once fought beside Daniel during the border wars. His voice was low but sharp. "Dan, what are you doing? People say you brought that alien into your house. Tell me it's not true." Daniel met his eyes without flinching. "It's true," Jonas cursed under his breath. "You know what this means. The tribunal watches for this kind of thing. Outcasts are forbidden. If they see her with you, with your girls—" He shook his head. "They'll take everything from you." Daniel's hands clenched into fists. "I won't send her back to die in the dirt. My daughters smile again because of her. That's all I need." Jonas stared at him, torn between friendship and fear. Finally, he whispered, "Then you'd better pray the enforcers don't hear of it, because if they come, not even your bravery will save you." Back at home, Solara noticed the change. Daniel's eyes carried heavier shadows. His shoulders looked more burdened. She could feel the weight pressing on him, and guilt gnawed at her heart. That evening, when the girls were asleep, Solara spoke softly. "You risk too much for me," she said, her voice trembling. "Your people hate me. They will turn against you. Already I see it in their eyes." Daniel sighed, sitting by the fire. "They turned against me the day I buried my wife. They whispered then, too. Said I couldn't raise 2 girls alone. Said I was finished." His voice hardened. "Let them whisper again. I don't care." Solara studied him. His strength, his pain, his stubborn courage. It was unlike anything she had seen among humans or her own kind. She lowered her eyes. "But the law," Daniel's gaze met hers. "The law doesn't hold my daughters when they cry at night. The law doesn't fix their broken toys or sing them to sleep. You do." Her heart ached at his words. No one had ever spoken of her with such value. For the first time, she wondered if she could truly belong. The next day, the girls begged Solara to walk them to the central market. Daniel agreed, though his gut twisted with unease. As they walked, silence spread around them. People stopped to stare. Some crossed to the other side of the street. A group of children pointed and whispered, their mothers pulling them away as if Solara carried a disease. Leah clung to Solara's hand. "Why are they looking at us like that?" she whispered. Solara's throat tightened. She wanted to say, "Because I am cursed. Because they fear me." But instead, she knelt down and brushed a strand of hair from Leah's face. "Because they do not understand. And sometimes people fear what they do not understand." A rock suddenly struck the ground near Solara's feet. Mira gasped. A young man stood nearby, glaring. "Go back where you belong, cast-off," he shouted. "You bring shame to this colony." Others joined in, their voices sharp and cruel. "Monster! Traitor!" The girl started crying, clinging to Solara's cloak. Daniel rushed forward, his face burning with rage. "That's enough!" he roared. His voice echoed across the market. "She is under my roof, my protection. If anyone dares touch her, they answer to me." The crowd fell silent for a moment, startled by his fury, but the glares remained heavy and hateful. Solara felt her chest tighten. She had seen this before, on her own world, when her people had turned their backs on her. She had thought leaving them meant escaping the shame, but now she saw it was a shadow that followed her across the stars. That night, Solara sat alone by the window, watching the patrol drones drift past. Their red eyes scanned the streets with cold precision. Daniel came to her side. "Don't let them break you," he said quietly. She turned to him, her voice barely a whisper. "I fear I will break you." Daniel shook his head. "You've given my girls laughter again. That's worth more than the approval of this colony." Solara studied him, her heart heavy with gratitude and fear. She wanted to believe his words, but in the distance, she saw the truth. The red glow of the drones lingered longer now, circling closer, as if sensing the forbidden bond growing inside that small home. The whispers of the colony were no longer just gossip. They were becoming weapons, and soon, those weapons would call the tribunal. Solara pressed her hand against the window, watching the shadows beyond. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope. But deep inside, she also knew hope always came with a price. The colony slept, but Daniel's house glowed softly with lamplight. Inside, something unusual was happening, something that did not belong to laws or whispers. Solara sat cross-legged on the floor, Mira and Leah on either side of her. Her long glowing fingers traced patterns in the air, leaving faint trails of light that shimmered like fireflies. The girls giggled, reaching up to catch the shapes. "What is it?" Leah asked, eyes wide. Solara smiled faintly. "A story. My people do not only tell tales with words, we paint them with light." She moved her hand again, and a glowing image of stars appeared, twinkling above the girls' heads. Mira gasped. "It's beautiful." Daniel stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching. He had not heard laughter in his home like this since his wife was alive. For a moment, the burden in his chest loosened, but behind that relief lay worry. He knew every joy with Solara would bring sharper danger from the world outside. Still, as his daughters leaned into Solara's arms, their fear forgotten, Daniel thought, "Let them try to take this away. Let them dare." The next day, Solara tried teaching the girls something else, an alien lullaby. Her voice was soft, deep, and strange, filled with tones that vibrated in the air like strings of a hidden instrument. The sound seemed to wrap around the room, soothing not just the children but Daniel as well. When Leah fell asleep in Solara's lap, Daniel whispered, "What does it mean?" Solara looked down at the small child curled against her. "It is a song of belonging. It says even the smallest flame is part of the stars, and the stars never forget their children." Daniel's throat tightened. He had no reply, but shadows pressed at the edges of their fragile happiness. When Daniel walked through the colony square later that week, he saw a notice posted on the board. The letters burned like fire in his mind. Reminder: association with alien outcasts is forbidden. Violators will face tribunal review. People read the notice in silence, but their eyes drifted toward Daniel. He felt their stares like knives. At home, he told Solara nothing. He could not bear to break the small peace they had built. Yet Solara sensed it. That night, as they sat near the fire, she whispered, "I feel the fear growing around us. It coils tighter each day." Daniel rubbed a hand across his face. "Fear is their way of control, but I won't let them steal what little I have left." Her glowing eyes softened. "Then you are braver than I." The girls, too young to understand law or danger, only felt the change in their home. They had begun to call Solara mother without thinking. Mira once said it while reaching for her hand, and Leah soon followed. Solara froze the first time she heard it. Her chest tightened, her lips trembled. She had been many things: an exile, a wanderer, a shadow in the streets, but never a mother. That night she sat awake long after the children slept, staring at her glowing hands. She whispered to herself, "Mother." The word felt fragile, like glass. She feared it would shatter if she believed in it too much. One evening, as rain tapped lightly on the windows, Solara spoke quietly to Daniel. "You must know the risk," she said. "The enforcers of galactic law are not merciful. If they learn of me, they will punish you. They will erase me." Daniel's jaw tightened. Then let them come. Her voice trembled. You would fight the tribunal itself? He met her gaze, steady and fierce. I would fight the galaxy itself for my daughters. And for you? For a long time neither spoke. The rain whispered against the glass. Then Solara lowered her head, her voice soft. No one has ever said such words to me. But the storm was already gathering. That night, as Solara tucked Mira and Leah into bed, a faint red glow flickered across the window. A patrol drone hovered silently, scanning the room. Solara froze, her hand still on Leah's blanket. She whispered an alien word under her breath, a prayer perhaps. The drone drifted away, but the warning was clear. Eyes were watching. When Daniel heard, he clenched his fists. They're circling closer. Solara's voice was heavy with sorrow. It is only a matter of time, still. When the girls clung to her the next morning, begging for another star story, Solara smiled and gave them light in the darkness. For a few stolen weeks, their small home became a sanctuary. Laughter returned. The girls slept without nightmares. Daniel began to feel alive again. And Solara, though haunted by fear, felt something she had never known before, a place where she belonged. But shadows do not stay hidden forever. One evening, as the family shared a rare moment of peace, a knock thundered on the door. It was not the gentle knock of a neighbor, nor the cautious tap of a friend. It was sharp, heavy, and official. Daniel's heart sank. Solara's breath caught. The girls looked at each other with wide, frightened eyes. Outside, a cold mechanical voice called through the storm. By order of the Galactic Tribunal, open the door, and just like that, the fragile bonds they had built were about to be tested. The knock echoed through the small house like the strike of a hammer. Daniel froze where he stood, his hand halfway to the door. Solara clutched Mira and Leah close, her glowing eyes wide with fear. The girls whimpered softly, sensing the danger even if they did not understand it. Again, the cold metallic voice rang out. By order of the Galactic Tribunal, open the door. Daniel's heart pounded. He had known this day would come, but not so soon. He glanced at Solara. She shook her head, whispering, If you open it, they will take me. If you resist, they will punish you. He clenched his fists. He had fought battles before, but this was different. This was his family, his daughters, his fragile second chance at life. He could not simply give it up. With steady breath, Daniel stepped forward and opened the door. Outside stood two figures draped in black and silver. Their faces were hidden behind glass masks that glowed faintly with red symbols. Enforcers. Behind them floated a patrol drone, its eye glowing like a burning coal. The taller enforcer spoke, voice filtered and cold. You have been seen sheltering an alien outcast. This is a violation of tribunal law. You must surrender her at once. Mira cried out, clutching her father's leg. Leah buried her face in Solara's cloak. Daniel's voice was firm, though his chest trembled. She is no threat to us. She is part of my family now. The enforcer tilted his head. Family? Humans and outcasts cannot form bonds. The law is clear. You endanger your daughters by keeping her here. Do you choose defiance? Daniel stood taller, though the weight of their words pressed on him. I choose to protect the ones I love. A silence fell, broken only by the hiss of the storm outside. Then the shorter enforcer stepped forward, voice sharper. You will regret this, human. We will return, and when we do, there will be no mercy. With that they turned, their cloaks whipping in the wind as they disappeared into the rain. The drone hovered a moment longer, scanning the faces inside before following. Daniel closed the door slowly. His hand shook as he barred it. The room was silent except for the sound of his daughter's quiet sobs. Solara lowered her gaze. I told you this would happen. The tribunal does not forgive. They will come again. Daniel turned to her, his face hard. Then let them come. We will face them together. But the threat did not stay at the door. It seeped into the colony like poison. The next day, Daniel walked to the market for supplies. As he entered, conversation stopped. Neighbors turned their backs. Old friends pretended not to know him. A man spat at his feet. You bring shame on us all, Carter. Do you think the tribunal will punish only you? No, they will punish all of us for your foolishness. Daniel's jaw tightened. He wanted to strike the man, but he forced himself to walk away. Every step felt heavier than the last. At home, Solara saw the anger in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. They blame you, she said quietly. He nodded. They blame us. But I won't bend. Not now. The girls clung to Solara more tightly than before. They had seen the enforcers. They had heard their threats. But they also felt safer when she held them, when she sang her strange songs at night. To them, Solara was not danger, she was comfort. That night, as the fire burned low, Daniel sat across from Solara. His face was pale in the dim light. "They'll try to take the girls too," he said. "If they say I'm unfit to raise them, they'll use that to break me." Solara's chest tightened. "Then perhaps I should leave. If I go, they will forget you." Daniel's head snapped up. "No, don't say that. You are the reason my daughters still laugh. You are the reason I still breathe. Without you, we are lost." Her eyes glowed softly in the dark, filled with conflict. She had never been wanted before, never been needed. And now, a human man and his children clung to her as if she were their lifeline. Days passed. Whispers grew louder. Enforcers circled closer. Notices appeared on every street. All humans are bound to uphold galactic law. Outcasts are forbidden. Betrayal of this law will be punished. Children repeated the words in cruel chants. Adults pointed fingers when Daniel walked by. Even Jonas, his old friend, no longer met his eyes. The walls of the small home seemed to close in. Fear pressed tighter each night. Yet strangely, love also grew stronger. Mira and Leah now called Solara mother openly, without hesitation. Daniel did not correct them. He only watched, heart heavy with pride and dread. One night the warning became clear. A sharp hiss woke Daniel from uneasy sleep. He rushed to the window and froze. Across the street on the wall of his neighbor's home, words glowed in burning red paint. "Traitor to humanity." The letters dripped like blood in the moonlight. Solara appeared behind him, her eyes wide with sorrow. She whispered, "They will not stop until they destroy us." Daniel turned, his face set like stone. "Then let them try." He looked at his sleeping daughters, then at Solara. "We are a family now, and no law, no tribunal will take that from me." But as he spoke, a shadow moved beyond the window, the unmistakable silhouette of another drone, hovering closer than ever before. Its red eye burned like a warning. The tribunal was watching. The tribunal was waiting, and the day of judgment was coming soon. The tribunal came swiftly. One cold morning before the sun rose, the sound of engines rumbled across the colony. Drones darkened the sky like swarming insects, red eyes glowing. Behind them marched enforcers, their black and silver armor shining with cruel authority. Daniel's daughters clung to him as the ground shook under the boots of law. Solara stood frozen by the door, her glowing hands trembling. She had known this moment would come. She had felt its shadow growing for weeks. A loud voice rang through the streets, carried by speakers on the drones. "Daniel Carter, you are charged with unlawful union with an alien outcast. By decree of the Galactic Tribunal, you will answer before judgment." The neighbors gathered quickly, whispering, pointing, some smirking with relief that their suspicion had been proven. Others looked away in silence, unwilling to help. Mira cried, "Papa, don't go." Daniel knelt, pulling his daughters close. "I must face them," he said gently. His eyes were fierce, not afraid. "But listen, no matter what they say, you belong with me, and you belong with her." He glanced at Solara. Solara shook her head, tears glowing in her eyes. "No, you cannot stand against them. They will crush you." Daniel stood, his jaw set. "They may crush me, but they will not crush us." The tribunal session was held in the central hall of the colony, a cold metal chamber filled with bright lights and silent watchers. At the front, 3 masked figures sat above all others, the judges. Their robes shimmered with symbols of authority. Daniel was forced to stand alone before them. His daughters and Solara were kept at the side under guard. Their small faces shone with fear. The lead judge spoke, voice deep and heavy. "Daniel Carter, you stand accused of breaking sacred law. The union of humans and alien outcasts is forbidden. You endanger not only yourself but your children, your colony, and the balance of the galaxy. Do you deny this?" Daniel lifted his chin. His voice was steady. "I do not deny that Solara lives with me. I do not deny that my daughters call her mother. I only deny your right to call that a crime." The hall stirred with gasps. The second judge slammed his staff. "You defy the tribunal?" Daniel's voice rose. "I defy your cruelty. She is not a danger. She is not a monster. She is the reason my daughters laugh again. She is family. And I will not give her up, Mira shouted from the side, her small voice cutting through the silence. She's our mother, Leah echoed, crying. We love her. The guards tried to hush them, but the words had already struck the hall like lightning. Solara stepped forward, though the guards moved to block her. Her glowing hands lifted. If you take me, then know this. I have skills your colony needs. I can heal what your medicine cannot. I have knowledge that could save your dying children. Do not call me worthless. I am not, the judges hesitated. Murmurs spread through the crowd of colonists. Some had lost children to sickness. Some had heard rumors of Solara's strange abilities. The lead judge spoke again, voice colder. Even if you have gifts, the law is absolute. Outcast cannot bond with humans. If we break this rule for you, we risk the balance of the galaxy. Daniel's eyes burned with fury. Balance? You speak of balance while my daughters cry at night with no mother to hold them. You speak of balance while Solara starves in the streets cast away for sins she never spoke of? Your balance is nothing but chains. The crowd stirred again. Fear and doubt twisted among them. The tribunal could feel their grip slipping. The second judge leaned forward. Daniel Carter, last chance. Renounce her. Send her away, and we may spare your children. Daniel's hands shook, but his voice was unbroken. No, I will not. My daughters chose her. My heart chose her. And I would rather be broken by your law than live without her. Gasps filled the hall. Some colonists began to clap softly. Others shouted in protest. The hall split with tension. Fear against courage, obedience against love. Solara's glowing eyes filled with tears. No one had ever fought for her before. No one had ever spoken her worth aloud. She felt her heart open like it never had, even when she was young among her own people. The lead judge raised his staff, striking the floor. The sound echoed like thunder. So be it, judgment is passed. The law stands. But before the sentence could be declared, Jonas, Daniel's old friend, stepped from the crowd. His voice shook but carried across the hall. Wait, he is right. I have seen what she does for his girls. I have seen hope in that house. Hope we have not felt in years. If the tribunal wishes to take her, then it must take me too. More voices rose. First one, then several, then dozens. Leave them be! She has harmed no one. The law is wrong. The judges looked down from their seats, their control slipping. What began as a trial was turning into something dangerous, a movement of defiance. Solara stepped closer to Daniel, her voice low but firm. They will not forgive this. Daniel's hand brushed hers, steady and unshaken. Then let them hate us. Love is worth it. Above the hall, the drones hovered, recording every word, every shout, every spark of rebellion. The tribunal might bend today, but the galaxy itself was watching. And somewhere far beyond the colony, in the cold depths of space, unseen enforcers whispered their reply. This love will not be forgiven. The tribunal hall shook with noise. Some shouted for punishment, others demanded mercy. For the first time in many years, the colony was not united in silence. It was alive with conflict. Daniel stood at the center, his daughters behind him, Solara at his side. His heart pounded like a drum, but his eyes burned with fire. He had spoken, and the truth could not be taken back. The lead judge struck his staff against the floor again. Silence. The command echoed, but the people did not obey as quickly as before. Their voices lingered, restless and bold. The judge's tone grew colder. Daniel Carter, you leave us no choice. By law, your union is forbidden. Solara will be erased and your daughters placed under protection. Mira screamed, clinging to Solara. Leah cried until her voice broke. Daniel stepped forward, his fists trembling. You will not take them. You will not take her. The enforcers moved, black cloaks sweeping as they prepared to seize Solara. But then something unexpected happened. Jonas, Daniel's old friend, rose again from the crowd. He pushed past guards, his voice strong. If you take her, you take me too. More colonists joined. And me, shouted a woman. And me, cried another. Soon dozens of voices rose together. She stays. She stays. The judges faltered. Their control slipped further with each shout. Fear flickered behind their masks. The tribunal had power, but it relied on obedience. And obedience was cracking. Solara's glowing hands trembled. She whispered to Daniel, this will not end here. They will return with greater force. The galaxy will not allow this. Daniel looked into her eyes, steady as stone. Then let them come. But today here we choose love. The lead judge tried again, his voice sharp as a blade. You fools. You risk the wrath of the galaxy. Do you think the enforcers will forget this rebellion? Daniel raised his voice so all could hear. Then let them remember. Let them see that a widowed man, 2 small children, and a cast-off alien stood against their chains. Let them see that family is stronger than law. The hall thundered with cheers and defiant cries. Fear had turned into courage. Silence had become fire. The judges rose, their cloaks swirling. So be it. You may win the voices of your colony, but the tribunal will not forgive. We will return. With that, they swept from the chamber, their drones following. The heavy doors closed behind them, leaving the crowd buzzing with triumph and dread. Back home, Daniel's daughters clung to Solara, refusing to let go. Mira whispered, "They tried to take you, but they couldn't." Leah smiled through tears. "You're ours now, forever." Solara held them close, her glowing eyes wet. She had never imagined such words could be spoken to her. Not by her people. Not by humans. She had been an outcast, unwanted, abandoned, and now she was called mother. Daniel watched them, his chest aching with both pride and fear. He knew the tribunal's threat was real. This peace was fragile, like glass ready to shatter, but he also knew something else. They had chosen their path, and no power in the stars could change that. Weeks passed. Life in the colony shifted. Some still turned away from Daniel's family, but others came quietly to their door. A mother with a sick child begged for Solara's help. An old man asked for her alien herbs to heal his wounds. Slowly, grudgingly, people began to see her worth. Solara sang her star songs at night, and not just Daniel's daughters listened. Sometimes neighbors pressed ears to the walls, comforted by the strange, soothing music. The family's home, once a place of whispers and suspicion, became a beacon of something else. Hope. But far beyond the colony, in the deep void of space, the tribunal's message spread. Enforcer ships whispered to one another. Dark councils spoke of rebellion. They would not forgive. They would not forget. The galaxy itself had turned its eye on a small human colony, on a widowed man who dared to defy sacred law, and on an outcast alien who found family where none should have existed. One evening, Daniel stood outside with Solara watching the stars. His daughters laughed inside, chasing each other with wooden toys. Solara's voice was quiet. They will come again, stronger, harder. Daniel nodded. I know, her glowing hand touched his. Then why do you not fear? He turned to her, his face lined with both sorrow and strength. Because I already lost everything once, and then I found you. Fear cannot take that from me. Love is greater than fear. Solara's chest ached with a warmth she had never known. She leaned into him, her glowing eyes reflecting the stars. For now they were safe. For now they were together. For now they had chosen love over law. But above the colony, far in the black sky, the red eyes of distant ships flickered, watching, waiting, and the voice of the tribunal whispered across the stars. This love will not be forgiven.